Hello, SPHL and even Riverman fans. Welcome to this video. Today with me, I have guest Jaime Corkum, and he's going to discuss some Ice Flyer hockey with me. Kind of wrap up what happened last year with them, and be more hopeful heading into a new season with some big changes on the horizon for the Ice Flyers. So that I'm sure is exciting for them. Last year, as you all are well aware of, me and Jamie were predicting not so great success for the Pensacola Ice Flyers with the moves Gary Graham was making and him just being hired as a head coach. My predictions that I definitely received a lot of backlash from was they would miss playoffs and finish in last place, which is exactly what happened, missing playoffs and finishing last place. First time in Ice Flyer franchise history that has happened to them. And I know it was something they were not used to, which is why I'm sure they thought I was outside my mind. But the writing was on the wall. You could kind of see that coming, that they would struggle to make playoffs. Honestly, yes, the last place prediction part, I kind of just was throwing that out there as mainly a possibility. But like I said, the writing was just on the wall for me, and I would have been shocked had they not. So, yeah, but there's reason to be hopeful coming up. They finished the year with 43 points and 15 wins. Jamie, you got the numbers. Why don't you go ahead and let
Yeah.
them know?
So 43 points, 15 wins, 28 losses. The biggest factor that sticks out to me is that we actually scored more than ninth place Macon Mayhem, which they scored 136 goals. We scored 139, but then we conceded 192 goals.
Which I'm
So
sure was most in the season by a team.
by 3 goals again. Quad City was the next closest. Yeah. So I mean, end of the day, you can't win games if you can't, score more goals than your opponent. If you're conceding almost 200 goals in a season, something's not at all right there.
Right, absolutely. Like I said, it was a disaster of a season with the way they signed, who they signed. To me, what put the stamp on it was who they made captain and Hamilton over Bondarenko. To me, that put the stamp on it that this team just is not going to be successful. Um, but towards the end of the year, they ended up getting rid of Gary Graham, hiring a new coach, which they are not going to bring back. They are looking actively for a new coach, which to me, if I'm an Ice Fire fan, is exciting because I want to get a young coach, some a fresh start, a new set of eyes that can work his magic, and hopefully resurrect what is a good organization, what is a historic organization in the SPHL. I mean, make no mistake. I mean, this is a Class A organization in the SPHL and was considered a powerhouse organization. So to see them fall like they did, it was unexpected to say the least, but it was hard to watch. At times, it was really difficult to watch them struggle and go through it the way they did. But I will credit the Ice Flyers fan. One positive you can take away from that was the support that Ice Flyer fan base showed them. They still, even at the end of the year, were selling out. They were still selling out and still coming to support the team, even when they knew, like, we're not making playoffs.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it mattered.
What looking at it like because I'm going into my first year being a wingman, a season ticket holder finally. Um, but last season, normally I would have zero issues getting tickets the week of a game I wanted to go to. Most of the good tickets were gone 3 weeks in advance. I mean, the fan support in Pensacola has been stupendous, even with a losing season. And that is what, like, I've talked to former players, current players on the team, and they all agree that, we have some of the best fans in the SPHL. And the fans absolutely deserve better because the way we support the team, the way even the talent that the team had, there's zero reason why Pensacola is finishing dead last and not in the at least in the top three every single year. And what does that come down to? Coaching. And you and I talked heavily about Gary Graham and his decisions in our first video before the season started, and our expectations. I didn't have high hopes, but I was hoping for the best. Obviously, we saw what happened. I just think, getting rid of Gary Graham was a great decision. Just it was a little too late, and bringing back Rod Aldoff, did a lot of great things for the team previously when he was our previous coach. But when you bring him back in, when we only have what was it, 10 games left in the season, something like that, maybe a little bit more. He's fighting a major uphill battle, with 500 pounds on his back, and a team that has literally the gloom of defeat constantly over them, and not understanding that or even thinking they can win at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't envy a coach coming in the middle of that season to try to resurrect them or right the ship. I mean, that would have been a monumental task for any coach to undertake. Some questionable decisions were made by both coaches. I think one questionable decision, again, was getting rid of somebody like a Caden Cahill. That's a cornerstone you want to help build a team around. The talent he has, he helped. I think he was like second on the team in points at the time of his trade.
Right, and makes me wonder if he requested the trade himself.
Yeah, I mean,
which you can't blame him
yeah,
one bit. So.
And I think he found a good home with the Fayetteville Marksmen.
Oh, he absolutely has, and he is absolutely loving it there. And from what I understand, he's wearing his father's old number now. So good for him. Happy to see it. I mean, love watching him play. He was always, always had a sense where, oh, hey, he could see that turnover about to happen. He's already starting to skate out the middle of the ice, trying to get that breakaway happening, get that odd man advantage going immediately. Really good head sense for that.
Yeah. And I know he received some criticisms for his defensive play. Again, I think he's a better defender than people give him credit for. He likes to be one step ahead of the play. So like what you said, if he sees a turnover coming, he's already breaking. If he's, and normally vice versa, if he sees that the puck's about to be turned over by his own team, he's busting down to be on defense. But, he's got to have help. He's not a defender. He's a forward, and damn good forward at that. And he knows where to be on the ice. He makes good decisions with the puck, and he sets people up to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with him is, even if he has to break back and to be on defense, he's a forward. He is a small forward, so he's not going to be able to get in there, throwing heavy checks to try and knock somebody off the puck. He's just going to get knocked silly.
Yeah.
So, like you said, he's got to have the support of other defenders to back him up. He can certainly slow somebody down, but then the onus becomes onto the defenders to hustle their butt back and get back into positions while Caden is, doing what he can. And he just was not getting that level of support from the Ice Flyers team. And again, that comes down to, the will to win, where the guys just have that cloud of defeat over their head where they don't think they can do it. Piss poor coaching, that's not standing behind the teammates and getting players to buy into their plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, the writing was there on the wall. I mean, like you said, a lot of it comes down to coaching. And to put it nicely, questionable decisions were made by the coaching, not just with who he brought in or who he let go, but with the style of play he was trying to implement with the team he had. And it just wasn't working. You seen it wasn't working, but his problem was the ability to adjust, to see that it wasn't working and try, but he was too stubborn to change anything. So
absolutely. Because it was, and you watch his press conferences, which you notice he barely held any press conferences this past season at all.
Yeah.
And, in the previous season, the press conferences he would have, he never took responsibility of everything and blamed other players, blamed, the captain Garrett Milan for things. And that's one of the questionable decisions you and I talked about was we didn't actually talk about it in our first video because we couldn't. But, getting rid of Garrett Milan. And what did Garrett do this season? Well, 101 points in the Fed, MVP of the entire league. So, you look at a player like Garrett Milan, fantastic forward, absolutely great player. Under the right coach, absolutely excelled and did fantastic. Under Gary Graham, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. And even like I said, not to me, not bringing back Garrett Milan and not bringing back a goaltender with the caliber of Steven Muddinger, which I thought could have been a cornerstone to the Pensacola franchise as well. I mean, and then like what you said with Milan, look where Muddinger ended up in the finals
Yep.
with Knoxville, heading up
Yep.
against Cole Cece. And if not for Cole Cece, maybe you could talk about playoff MVP for
Yep.
Mundinger. So
Absolutely.
questionable decisions to say the least. But flashing forward, now we're moving on.
Right.
We got a new season coming up. They are on the hunt for a new coach. What do you want to see from the Ice Flyers in terms of that? What's something you're looking for this new coach to come in and do?
Better on special teams. The first third of the season last year, we had given up more shorthanded goals than we had scored on the power play.
Wow.
And that is a terrible statistic to hold. Terrible. The past couple seasons, our power play has not been anywhere near where it should be. You know, so I want to see special teams. I want to see us, scoring, 30% of our power plays. I want to see us killing off 90% of our penalty kills. So special teams wins and loses games 100%.
Right. Um,
I want I
you
want
like the protected list, right? So you can
Yep.
name who we got. So why don't you go through your protected list and we'll touch on that a little on who the Pensacola Ice Flyers put down on that.
Yep. So we brought Bondarenko back, which I'm really hoping to see him wear the C this coming season. Price is back. German is back. Noriega is back. Jurassic is back. Nee, Hayes, Hunter, Pullinger, Szynski, Armentario, Skelly, and Ruskowski, which honestly I'm pretty surprised not to see Brody Cloyes on that list, but Coach, I'm sure Coach Aldoff made this list as one of his final duties before, stepping aside while they try to get a new coach in, and maybe he's seen something more in Ruskowski than he saw in Cloyes.
Yeah, I do hear some good names in there. I did get a chance to see a little bit of Ruskowski at goalie, and I do think he is a plus goaltender and could help. Obviously, bringing back Bondarenko is huge, but I thought you could get good things from Nee and German as well. I see
Mm-hmm.
some promise in them. What are some names that really stand out to you on that list?
So Skelly impressed me when he played against us. Now and I'm excited to see what he's going to do for us now. If I remember correctly, he came in mid to late season. So great defender. Really brings some physicality to the ice. So that'll be great to see. A couple of the other ones I'm not too familiar with as of yet. Jurassic, he played great for us, and of course Bondo, he is just been a staple of the team for such a long time. Um, Really sad not to see Golka on that list, but he got called up and never came back. So hopefully that means he's going to stay up in the E, and that would be great to see for him. So
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask next, which you kind of said with Golka. But is there any name that was left off that you're kind of worried about maybe not returning to Pensacola Ice Flyers?
Troy Button.
But oh yeah, yeah.
So
And again, like I said, there's a couple of names too. Like I know that you traded that I would be looking forward to that the Rivermen did put on their protected list, even though we didn't play with Greg Smith. And Riverman did end up putting him on his protected list on the forwards, even though he stayed up in the E. Just for my sake, what is there anything you can really tell me about Greg Smith and what he did maybe for Pensacola Ice Flyers while there?
it's so hard to really say anything because of the coaching issues. You couldn't really see the players' talents being utilized. So I think, your coach is really good at picking players and putting together a great team. He's seen something in him. I'm sure we're going to see him do excellent things for Peoria. But again, I can't really say too much about how he played for Pensacola because the team never meshed at all during the season. And when a team doesn't mesh, you don't get to see the individual skills or the team play of those players.
Yeah. And two other guys that we did, I think get from Pensacola on trades for Caden Cahill that we did see turn out, and I'm looking forward because they were put on the protected list as well. Was Griffin Fox and Brendan Rons. I thought
Yep.
Griffin Fox did a hell of a job for us in Peoria, and Brendan Rons looks like a plus defender as well.
Yep.
Sucks losing Caden Cahill for players like that, but I'm happy with the two players we got, and I'm sure seeing those guys be successful in Riverman with the Rivermen, you're like, yeah, we could use some of that here in Pensacola,
Well, oh, absolutely, absolutely. And once we get a new coach in, and hopefully, get that winning mentality back, get that buy-in, we're going to see great things out of the players that we have protected and the new players we pick up. One thing I definitely want to touch on last season, and this is something that Gary Graham did bring up, and he was absolutely right about when he made his farewell post in the Pensacola fan page. He picked a lot of players early on that had taken call-ups the previous year and spent a lot of time up in the higher leagues. And normally you don't see those call-ups start coming until a little bit later in the season, and we got hit with them almost immediately right off the rip. I mean, we had Sean Golka get injured in the preseason game against Birmingham. He was out for half the season. Then we had Colby Johnson get called up like a month and a half into the season, and he spent the rest of the time in the E. Golka got called up at the end, and several other players just got called up and never came back. So we got our roster pretty much ripped apart right at the beginning of the season. But that also, again, falls on the coach. You signed players that are going to take up call-ups as soon as they get the option to do so. So if you're trying to build a team around these players, you're already setting yourself up for failure.
Well, yeah, and I think two other names on that, like we already touched on Greg Smith, but I think what really hurt was Cameron Cook, because he never really contributed or really stayed that long. He took that call up pretty damn quick, and he just never returned to the SPHL. And having a player like Cameron Cook is definitely a luxury to have. That
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And great. I couldn't be happier for the players because they're living their dream. Getting that call up, fantastic. You're making more money, you're playing at a higher level, you're getting more eyes on you. Great. It sucks for us so bad, but no, great job for them. I mean, I couldn't be happier for those players. But again, if you're coaching the league, this is a possibility. You can't build a team around those players.
right, yeah, it's hard to build around players that aren't going to be there. They may
Yep.
be A-plus players in the league. I'm not disputing that. Great names to have. But as great as it is to have the rights to them, if you only have rights and they're not playing here, it's not going to help your team down.
100%. 100%.
So, as from a fan perspective, as yourself, coming off of last season, which is an unfortunate season, going to have a new coach, maybe have some new names. I mean, you look back at Knoxville. I mean, their previous year, again, they finished dead last, and they ended up being in the cup final this year. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen with Pensacola by any means, but
of course it's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen.
But what is your expectations after coming off a season like you're coming? You still don't have a new coach yet. But what are some expectations you have coming into this year? What's some things you're looking forward to, and what is your hope? Like where do you realistically think this team could finish if they get back a majority of those names, like say on the protected list?
Realistically, I'd of course love to see top three, but realistically, probably fifth or sixth playoff contention. But we get the right coach, we get that buy-in. We are definitely going to be in playoff contention 100% of the time. How we finished in the playoffs? Well, unfortunately, I seem to be bad luck for any team that I support going to the playoffs. My Boston Bruins didn't make it. My Pensacola Ice Flyers didn't make it. Of course, I support the Athens Rock Lobsters as well in the Fed, and they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, just like Pensacola has the previous 2 years that they made it to the playoffs. So I'd like to see us lift the cup again. Realistically, I'd say we take it to the second round of the playoffs, and then that's a great start. Build from there. Would I love to see us do what Knoxville did? Absolutely. Would I love to see us lift the cup? Absolutely. But my practical mind says middle of the pack, second round of playoffs.
Yeah, and with me, it's hard. It's hard to give. I mean, it was much easier to give a prediction like I did last year because it was all right there in front of me. But
Right.
nothing is really right here in front of us, right? We
Right.
still don't have a head coach yet. We don't have a roster yet. I mean, we got a protected list, yes.
Right.
That's technically not a roster yet,
Nope.
so it is hard to lay expectations. I understand that. I do think, again, with the names on that protected list, if you can get a majority of those names to come to you, and a good coach, a new young coach that can fix some of these things, maybe even grab an assistant coach to help them, you know,
Right.
and you can see some positive changes. You could see that writing on the wall. I would like to think with these new changes and a fresh start, that yes, the Pensacola Ice Flyers could and should be in playoff contention. Where they finish right now, I just can't say because it could be anywhere from eighth to like what you said, fifth, sixth, fourth, whatever. It's really hard to put a spot on it, but I will go out on a limb and say I would be surprised if they were left out of playoff contention for a second straight year.
I think there would be riots in Pensacola if that happened.
Right. Especially with the support. With the support they get, like I think there's plenty of motivation there to right this ship. I think the
Yep.
ones there, because they do, they want to put a good product on the ice for their fans. Last year was a nightmare, I'm sure, for that owner. Like I said, the only positive he can really take from last year was the fan support.
Yep.
But you got to do something with that fan support while you got it. So I think,
Absolutely.
he, I think that is going to motivate him, whoever this new coach is, because the new coach coming in is going to know the history of the Ice Flyers and know what this organization is to the SPHL and what it means to the fans of Pensacola. And it is a challenging task ahead of them, but I think a good coach embraces those challenges and accepts them.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm just really looking forward. Not a Pensacola fan by any stretch of the imagination, um,
Not yet. You're not.
but I am interested, and I do have my eye on this offseason with them. Who they bring in to coach, who comes back for sure. I think this is a chance to right a lot of wrongs that were made, like what you said, clean up some things. And if Bondarenko returns, I hope to see a C on his chest.
Absolutely. He's more than earned it. He's been with the team forever, and he was being groomed to be the C after Milan, eventually retired. Fortunately, that's not what happened with Milan, as we all know. But it should have been Bondo's this last season. I think honestly, if we had Bondo wearing the C last season, we may have made the playoffs.
Hey, like I said, that's a good possibility because I think he did make C. Like I said, and trust me, I've seen him with the Rivermen. Now, I'm not saying the guys never did good things, okay? And back in his younger days, yeah, he was a little bit better, but I mean, it's like making an enforcer a captain, and you really
Yep.
just
Well, I mean, Hamilton is an enforcer, and it's and Hamilton was in the box quite often, and it's really hard to lead a team when you're sitting in timeout. So
yeah, and if you're going to do those things, you got to be productive. Like you look at Hags, maybe Hags took more penalties than he should have, but he made up for that with not only his leadership skills but production on the ice as well.
yeah. And
So
as well as if you look at Hageman, the amount of minutes he sat to what he should have sat with what he got away with makes a whole bunch of difference because he sat probably a third of what he should have actually sat down for, and that gets in opposing players' heads because he's getting away with that stuff. It makes them try to retaliate and do something stupid. Now they've been caught, and now they're in the box. Next thing you know, Peoria power play.
I mean, you got to see it firsthand when he
Yeah,
came to the Ice Flyers. You got to see his magic, that is Hagman, how he gets players to retaliate and take penalties. And so, I mean, we never did really talk about that. So, I just want to know out of, curiosity. I know he's been gone and stuff, but this is just for me now, more so than the video. But you got a close up look at Hagman on the Ice Flyers. Okay. So, what did you think when he was on the Ice Flyers?
oh, he was a pleasure to watch play because he really did get under the skin of the players. He reminds me of the captain of the team that I grew up watching when I lived in Louisiana. My dad was in the service. A guy by the name of Dan Wildfog. He was the captain of the team. Led. We were We were Central Hockey League, and then whatever formed into the Central, I was like WHL or something like that. I can't remember. It's been 20 plus years, but Wildfong had this knack. He led the league every year in penalty minutes, but they actually showed a statistic one time that the amount of penalties he uh, power plays he created for our team in minutes was twice what he sat. And we won the league so many times simply because of that. That's oh, look, by the way, he's going to, get a quick little roughing jab in, so the dirty play, absolutely. But it gets underneath the other player's team, and Hageman did the same thing. Yes, is it dirty? Is it part of the game? 100%. You do whatever you can to get under the skin of the other players to make them make that mistake. Once that happens, boom.
I mean, because
You know,
you kind of hit it. That is part of the game, right? Like, this is a physical sport. This is a
yeah,
fast sport. You got to be obviously athletic and in shape. But this game is so much
yep,
mental and discipline too. And part of the game you play is throwing the opponents off their own game and
right,
making them undisciplined. And I think that's what Rivermen do best. And I think that's what Hageman does best is getting to the heads of opponents to where we dragged you into our style. You're not playing your style of hockey anymore. Now you're playing in our world, and we're the masters of this world. So,
exactly. And just like you said, it is any sport in reality is a chess match. Hockey just happens to be much more violent, much more fast paced than like soccer, baseball, chess. Baseball is literally a chess match between the pitcher and the batter. Every single pitch thrown. Hockey is just a much faster paced version of that with razor blades on their feet, and they're allowed to fight without getting ejected. So, and a lot of people, like, oh yeah, it's dirty. Well, that's why the fighting occurs. The fighting is a way to police the players because in reality, the referees are just there to annoy everybody else and call penalties every now and then. The players control the game. They police the game themselves. The referees are just they're basically to make sure nobody dies.
I mean, yeah, because the game don't stop just because the whistle blows. The game still
Exactly.
goes on even after the whistle blows. That's still where they're getting in your head. That's the whole point in scrums to get that extra face wash in to
Yep.
maybe knocked you down on accident, accidentally on purpose.
Yep.
That's part of the game, and that's what I always try to get people to understand the game don't stop there. This is where the mental part of the game comes into play. And like I said, you know, do you hate that if you're the opposing fan? Obviously, but when it's your
Absolutely.
team, it's the most awesome thing you've seen.
Oh, 100%. And that's one thing I would love to see the Ice Flyers pick up this offseason is a player like that can get into the opposing players' heads on a regular basis and let us control the game instead of, a game being battled out for control. If you have that player that can consistently bring that favor to you, it makes it a lot easier to win the games. It brings that confidence level up. So now you're feeling like the refs are on your side. You feel like the game's going in your favor. And then when you feel that way, it's a lot easier to put your shots on target.
Exactly. Before we wrap up here, going to speak and then give you the opportunity to speak. But coming off of last year, heading into this year, like I said, I think the main issues that need solved for the Pensacola Ice Flyers, like you touched on, is their special teams and defense to help out their goaltending better. I do think Pensacola Ice Flyers do have goal scorers on their team. They can put the puck in the net. That part I'm not so worried about. It's protecting and supporting the goaltending, and it's cashing in and being successful on special teams. You got to be able to do that. The team defense to get into passing and shooting lanes, to block shots, the cashing in on the power play. I mean, this is all part of success. I always say it in the playoffs, but team defense and special teams, man, that wins championships. Helps out your goalie so much to not wear him down as quick and to allow him to be more focused and sharp on certain shots. So that's what I'm looking for. This new coach, hopefully he can come in and help them maintain their offensive game, but also implement a better team defense and implement a better special teams. And if he does that, then he should have a good team on his hands. He should have a middle of the pack team on his hands that can make playoffs. And who knows? Because you've seen it from the Thunderbolts this year. You even seen it from Knoxville this year. If you're in the playoffs, you have a chance. Doesn't matter what seed you are. As long as you make it, you have a chance to raise that cup. And Thunderbolts are the perfect example. Play good hockey at the right time. That's what could happen. So, what are your final thoughts as we head into a new season?
So exactly what you said. I'm very, very hopeful. I'm sure you and I are going to make another video once they announce our new head coach, and you and I have a chance to research him a little bit. Um, I am incredibly hopeful. I agree with exactly what you say. First, we got to start on the special teams. Then we need to make sure we have some people that will actually play defense in front of our net and not let our net miners, you know, left out to dry. That was one of our biggest problems last season. Actually, honestly, the last two seasons, our defenses were not just we're just leaving out your goalies to do whatever. Like no defense, easy pass play. Well, what's the goalkeeper going to do? Absolutely nothing. Even Mundinger, who's when he played for us, takes up pretty much 2/3 of the goal. He gets a couple good passes around. The defense is not there. Well, now you've got 1/3 of that goal wide open for the easy puck to be put in. Got to have that defense there to stop those chances. I don't care if it's running somebody over. If you have to take a penalty, the knocks somebody over. Hey, at least you're giving us still giving us a chance and not leaving a wide open goal. Get in there, play physical, play that proper defense. We get that, we're going to be okay. One, not giving up shorthanded goals, scoring on the power play. We put all that together. It'll be a very good back to normal Ice Flyer season for us, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And of course, a player like Hageman or the one I mentioned earlier, Wallafong, would love to see that on our team too. We get that. Oh yeah, the conversations you and I will be having next season will be a lot different.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But like I said, I do think there's a lot to be hopeful for. If Ruskowski can come back, I do think you have a steady goaltender there. And without Ivan Bondarenko hopefully leading the way and wearing a C, like I said, offense, even in the season they had last year, offense to me is not the issue. It was always coaching, special teams, and just poor defense. And like I said, again, that goes to the coaching and captain because your captain was a defensive player. So
Right.
again, to me, that this shows the poor choices that were made and the wrong people in charge. And so righting that ship, I think gets this team off on the right foot to a fresh new start. Like I said, I do hope they are in playoff contention, and I think they will be with some necessary changes that already have been made and will be made in the future. Um,
Absolutely.
so, anything you want to add to that before we wrap up?
Nope. Just hey, Ice Flyers fans, keep up the level of support we did last season. Yeah, yes, it was rough, but I love meeting so many of you guys there at the games. And let's keep it up. Let's show the team that we still have their back no matter what. That's gonna always help them out. So Get out there, get strong. Let's have some fun. And we'll see you guys at the hangar in a couple months.
Sounds like good. October can't get here soon enough.
Amen to that.
So with that, everybody, will go ahead and wrap this up. Jamie, I appreciate you having on and talking with me about the Ice Flyers. Look forward to having you on again to talk more. And with that, I'll catch you guys at the next puck drop. And everybody knows I keep it Riverman style.